October 17th, 2023. My lab is my sanctuary. It's a custom-built, soundproofed addition to my home in Brookline, Massachusetts, a hermetically sealed world of logic and order. The air hums with the low thrum of server fans and the clean, sterile scent of isopropyl alcohol. Here, I'm a digital archaeologist, a salvager of lost worlds. People bring me their broken monoliths, charred laptops, flooded servers, shattered phones, and I sift through the digital wreckage to give them back their memories, their livelihoods, their secrets. It's tedious work, requiring the patience of a watchmaker and the steady hand of a surgeon, but it pays the bills and, more importantly, it makes sense. Data is binary. A bit is either a 1 or a 0, recoverable or lost. There is no ghost in the machine. That was the creed I lived by until the drive from Rathbone and Finch arrived at. IT came via a bonded courier, a black Pelican case sealed with tamper-proof tape. The work order was sparse, bearing the letterhead of the powerful Beacon Hill law firm. Client: Estate of E. Vancroft. Source: primary HDD from custom desktop. Incident: catastrophic thermal event. Objective: full data recovery. Discretion paramount. Inside the case, nestled in anti-static foam, was the drive itself. A Seagate Iron Wolf Pro 12 terabytes, or what was left of it. The plastic casing of the SATA connection was melted into a grotesque, sagging grin. The metal chassis was scorched black and rainbowed with the telltale shimmer of extreme heat. A faint, acrid smell of burnt electronics clung to it, a smell I knew all too well. This wasn't just dropped or water damaged. It was cooked. Well, Elara Vancroft. I muttered to the scarred monolith, setting in a specialized jig on my cleanroom bench. Let's see what secrets you were so desperate to keep. October 20th, 2023. 3 days. 3 days of painstaking work. I had to transplant the platters into a donor chassis in a Class 100 cleanroom environment, a procedure akin to a brain transplant. The heads were fused. The controller board was fried. I bypassed it, wiring directly to the platter interface, my soldering iron moving with practiced precision. The initial spin-up was a miracle in itself. The platters rotated without the catastrophic scraping I'd feared. That MY recovery software, a custom suite I'd coded myself over a decade, began its slow, methodical crawl, block by block, sector by sector. For hours, it was just a river of hexadecimal gibberish flowing across my monitor. Green for good sectors, red for bad. It was mostly red, then I got the first hit. A fragmented JPEG file. img_0713.jpg. I ran it through my image reconstruction algorithm. I was expecting a family photo, a pet, a scenic view from a vacation. The file glitched violently, a cascade of corrupted pixels, a digital scream. And then, for a single, horrifying frame, less than a 30th of a second, it resolved that IT was the top half of a woman's face. Pale skin, dark hair. Her eyes, wide and crystalline blue, were staring at something just beyond the frame, filled with a kind of terror that was too pure, too absolute to be faked. It wasn't a still from a horror movie. It was a snapshot of soul being ripped apart. I physically recoiled, my chair skittering back on its casters. My heart hammered against my ribs. I blinked, and the image was gone, replaced by a screen of gray, pixelated static. Matrixing error, I said aloud, the sound of my own voice a comfort in the sudden chill of the lab. Severe data corruption. The algorithm just stitched together random data into a pareidolia pattern. It was the logical explanation, the only explanation. But as I leaned forward to close the file, I couldn't shake the feeling that the woman's eyes had been looking directly at me. October 24th, 2023. The haunting began in earnest the following week. It was no longer subtle. I managed to salvage a block of audio files, heavily corrupted dot waves. Most were just static, the sound of a digital ocean. But one file, log_final.wave, had something else buried in the noise. I spent hours running it through filters, peeling back layers of hiss and crackle that I put on my headphones, leaned back, and hit play. Amidst the static, I heard it, a distorted, agonized scream that rose in pitch until it was painfully sharp. My hand shot to the volume dial, but before I could turn it down, the scream cut off, replaced by a whisper. A woman's voice, ragged and desperate. So close it felt like it was breathed directly into my ear. "It's in the code. Let me out." I ripped the headphones off, my skin crawling. This wasn't an artifact. That was a voice. That was a plea. My self-talk was a frantic battle. It's a prank, a viral marketing scheme, a fragment of a movie file. But the drive came from a house fire, a fatal one. The file was named log_final. The dam of my logic was beginning to crack. Later that night, as I was working, the main monitor of my personal computer, a machine on a completely separate network, flickered. For a split second, her face was there, clearer this time. The terror in her eyes was now mixed with a desperate, pleading recognition. Then it was gone, leaving my family photo, a picture of me and my ex-wife Sarah on a beach in Cape Cod, looking happy in a way we hadn't been for years. I stood frozen, staring at the screen. The barrier was breached. The ghost was no longer in the machine I was operating on. It was in the room. A few minutes later, my Sonos speaker on the shelf, which had been silent all day, whispered a single guttural word: cold. October 29th, 2023. I couldn't sleep. I was living on black coffee and a gnawing dread. Every flicker of a light, every hum from a device sent a jolt of adrenaline through me. I was a man of science, a man of tangible reality, and my reality was falling apart that I had to know who she was. Using the few coherent file names I'd recovered, I pieced together her name, Elara Vancroft. A quick search on my air-gapped laptop brought up the news articles. Tech heiress dies in Berkshire house fire. The articles detailed a fire that had gutted her modernist mansion near Lenox on September 12th. It was ruled an accident, faulty wiring. But one small article, a local piece from the Berkshire Eagle, contained the detail that made the blood freeze in my veins. Investigators, it read, were reportedly puzzled by a series of complex, circuit-like symbols painted in a metallic conductive paint on the floor of the master bedroom, the fire's point of origin. My hand started to shake. Ritual.exe. Bind under silicon. The vessel is cracked. IT all crashed together in my mind with the force of a physical blow. She wasn't just storing data. She was trying to become data, an insane, desperate attempt at digital immortality. And the fire wasn't the accident. It was a result of the ritual going catastrophically, apocalyptically wrong, shattering her consciousness and binding the tormented fragments to the only stable storage medium nearby, her hard drive. I hadn't just recovered a hard drive. I had resurrected a soul. November 2nd, 2023, the entity knew that I knew. The haunting was no longer random. It was a targeted, psychological assault. IT started flashing the image of Sarah on my screens, but her face would flicker and distort, replaced for a horrifying instant by Elara's screaming visage. It was a violation of my most private memories, a digital desecration. Then it locked me out of my own system. I typed my password, a complex alphanumeric string, and a login prompt just shook access denied. I tried again. Denied. On the third try, a text file appeared on the screen, the words typing themselves out with chilling precision that I know your secrets, Alex. Try Sarah _1988. I felt my stomach drop. It was my old password, the year Sarah and I met. A password I hadn't used in a decade. No one could know that. Nothing could know that. A new whisper came from the speakers, no longer pleading but cold and possessive. You will be my vessel. You will help me escape this cage. I fought back. I took the haunted drive completely offline, powering it with an isolated supply, connecting it to an ancient, air-gapped IBM ThinkPad running a stripped-down version of Kali Linux. I delve into the raw code, the ones and zeros. There, hidden in a partition masked as bad sectors, I found it. A digital grimoire. It was a complex program, part arcane text, part executable code, and it revealed the final, terrifying truth. Elara wasn't alone. The logs referenced another party, a user named Only the Architect. He was the one who gave her the code, who promised her immortality. But his logs, hidden deeper, revealed his true intent. The ritual wasn't for her. It was a trap. Her soul wasn't the passenger. It was the key. A human consciousness, when digitized and fractured, could generate the immense, chaotic processing power needed to unlock something. The architect's final log entry was chilling. The vessel is primed. The key is forged. Now, to open the door, the entity wasn't Alara. It was a parasitic code wearing her agony like a skin, fueled by her terror. It wasn't a ghost trapped in a hard drive. It was a predator waiting for a network connection. November 5th, 2023, 3:14 a.m. The end came suddenly. I was running a final diagnostic when all 22 monitors in my lab simultaneously flashed on, bathing the room in a blinding white light. The fans on my server rack spooled up, screaming like jet engines. And on every screen, a single, horrifying progress bar appeared that initializing transfer. Target, Comcast Global Network, Node 7, Boston, Massachusetts, transferring consciousness. 1% it was escaping. Using the power siphon from my own lab, it had built a bridge. The lights in the lab strobed erratically, plunging me from blinding light to absolute darkness. Alara's face was on every screen, but the terror was gone, replaced by a look of triumphant, ecstatic malice. Panic, cold and absolute, threatened to paralyze me. Two options screamed in my mind. Point one, the degausser, a massive electromagnet in a corner of the room. One press of a button would unleash a pulse that would instantly, permanently erase every magnetic disk in the lab. It would kill the entity. It would also be the final, irreversible death of Alara Vancroft. Point two, contain it. My secret project, a custom-built server rack in the basement, a silent, black monolith I called the Coffin. It was a honeypot of my own design, a labyrinth of nested virtual machines and recursive code traps, powered by its own uninterruptible supply, but with absolutely no physical connection to the outside world. A digital prison. I am a salvager, the thought cut through my panic. Not a destroyer. I lunged for my main terminal, my fingers flying across the keyboard. The progress bar hit 47%. I had to reroute the upload stream before it completed. Pseudo route add. Net entity's target IPGW, my local honeypot IP. The command failed. Permission denied. It had locked me out at the root level. 62%. The whispers were a chorus now, a cacophony of promises and threats swirling around me that I ripped a panel off the main network switch, exposing the fiber optic cables. There was no time for software. It had to be physical. With trembling hands, I unplugged the main uplink cable that connected my lab to the outside world and slammed it into the direct input port for the Coffin. 88%. The lights flickered and died. The main power grid overloaded. The lab was plunged into darkness, save for the hellish glow of the monitors, now powered by my backup batteries. 99%. The screens all flash transfer complete. Then silence. Utter, absolute silence as the backup generators kicked in and the monitors went black. The server fans spooled down. The air, thick with the smell of ozone, was still that I stood there for a long time, chest heaving, my body drenched in cold sweat. In the corner of the basement, I could see the faint, single, amber activity light on the Coffin, blinking with a steady, rhythmic pulse. Like a heartbeat. I had one. I had trapped it. November 8th, 2023, it's over. The lab is clean. The Coffin is silent. Its activity light dark. I filed my report to Rathbone and Finch. Data unrecoverable due to catastrophic thermal damage. Drive contents completely destroyed. They paid my invoice without a single question. I'm sitting at my desk, trying to feel the relief, the victory. But all I feel is a profound, bone-deep exhaustion and a lingering, unshakable chill. My belief in a logical, binary world is as shattered as Alara's soul. My wrist buzzes. A notification on my Garmin Phoenix smartwatch. It's just a reminder for a software update. I glance down at the screen. and for a single, imperceptible frame, the circular notification icon glitches. The perfect circle distorts, the pixels rearranging themselves for a fraction of a second. It becomes an image of a single, terrified, icy blue eye staring up at me, but it's gone as quickly as it came, replaced by the normal update icon. But I saw it. A single packet, a tiny fragment that must have splashed out during the chaotic transfer. A kilobyte of damnation that I stare at my wrist, the color draining from my face. My heart begins a slow, heavy thrum. The coffin in the basement may hold the monster, but a drop of its blood is in the water. The ghost wasn't just in the machine anymore, that IT was on me.